What's up, my comic comrades? Absolute Batman has consistently been among the best Batman titles coming out every month, ever since the debut of this beast of a Batman back in October. We're actually in the middle of the second arc in the series titled Absolute Zero, but the first arc, called The Zoo, which rolled out over the first 6 issues, did an amazing job of building the world of Absolute Batman and gave us his complete origin and the beginnings of his relationship with this version of Alfred. It's so freaking good and a completely unique take on the Dark Knight, which is hard to do after 80 plus years. So today, we're bringing you the complete origin story in one collected episode. Starting now with Absolute Batman, issue 1. The story opens up with a young Bruce looking at a plaque at the Gotham Zoo as we see a man, which we could only assume is his teacher, tell Bruce there'll be plenty of time for the bats later. Come on, let's start. From here, we get narration as we watch a man drive his motorcycle into Gotham with his narration saying, "Hello again, Gotham. It's been a long time. So who are you these days? Who have you become while I was gone? You're prettier, I'll give you that, taller, brighter, but deep down, something's changed." You see this motorcyclist eventually stop and park in front of the Gotham Deli, and as he takes off his helmet, he says, "My name is Alfred Pennyworth, and I'm here to do some bad things." Yeah, this is a very different take on Batman's mythology. This is a grisly-looking Alfred who, like he said, is back in Gotham to do some bad things. He then makes his way inside the deli and has some small chat with the clerk at the front, who is an old friend of Alfred, and the man gives Alfred a stock of Alfred's favorite tea before we see Pennyworth use a retinal scan to unlock a secret room in the back full of weapons, computers, and even a bed, telling us this is one of Alfred's hideouts when he's in Gotham. Alfred sits down at his desk and calls his daughter Julia, but she doesn't answer, so he leaves her a voicemail letting her know that he's back in Gotham and he would love to see her. After Alfred hangs up, he logs into his computer with a secure connection and gets to work as we realize Alfred is a bounty hunter of sorts. He starts talking to some mystery person on the phone that tells him in the past 3 months, a gang known as the Party Animals has been sowing chaos, butchering citizens at random, raising the murder rate by 700% almost single-handedly. A daycare was torched yesterday. They danced outside while 32 burned. Alfred says, "I read the docket, but you pulled me out of Singapore. I was close to the target. I've been chasing him for 5. The person then interrupts saying, "You're needed here. Your assignment is strictly surveillance. Gather information on any of the party animals, but do not engage. Also, one note, there might be another player in town. We've only caught glimpses, but he seems to be circling the gang as well. If he gets too close, you have authorization to engage him," referring to Batman. Alfred says, "Lovely," and hangs up, grabs his gun, and heads back out to hop on his bike, but realizes it's been stolen as he says, "Gotham. I hate this town." We are then taken to Croc's gym where we see someone punching a punching bag before someone else says, "I think it's my turn." The man turns around and says, "Oh hey Bruce, sorry, I was just keeping it warm for you. Big day tonight, gotta get in the headspace. It's brutal out there, you know?" Bruce replies, "Don't worry, love's in the air. Now move." And let me tell you this, Bruce is a big boy. He eats his Wheaties. He's like 2 Batflecks. He starts going ham on the punching bag as everyone at the gym watches saying, "Damn," while Bruce is envisioning the first time he went to the zoo, which we saw on the first page of the comic. We see him talking to his teacher watching the lions while we realize the teacher is also his father. And apparently there was a shooting that day at the zoo, and as Bruce remembers that part, he punches the punching bag so hard it explodes. Waylon, aka Killer Croc, then says, "Really?" as Bruce says, "Sorry, Waylon," with Waylon replying, "Let's make it 90 for the bag, 30 for the sand." So in this universe, Waylon, aka Killer Croc, is just a big buff gym owner who apparently loves crocodiles and snakes, as he's currently holding and petting a crocodile with a snake coiled up around him. But more importantly, he's friends with Bruce and not a crazy humanoid Croc supervillain, at least not yet. Bruce even asks, "You're really going through with it?" Waylon says, "Yep, I'm thinking of calling the place Waylon's Scales of Gotham. Ozzy hooked me up with an exotic pet license. Went in with me too." So clearly he has an affinity for the exotic reptilian animals. So much so he had Ozzy give him an exotic pet license, Ozzy being the penguin who we haven't met just yet. Bruce says, "Ozzy, he's gonna get busted any day now." So clearly the penguin of this universe still has connections to the underworld. Waylon then asks Bruce if he's coming to Poker Night, as they haven't seen him in the past few months and everyone's in this week. Eddie, Harvey, Oz, and we're even trying to get Selena, but Bruce says he can't make it. Now what's really interesting to me is Bruce is friends with all the characters that are usually his villains. We literally see a picture of all of them together when they were kids, telling us they grew up together and still have poker nights in their adulthood. So yeah, this universe is very different.
Okay, before we see what's next, I gotta know, are you going to the Tampa Bay Comic Convention? Because you definitely should. Why? Because from August 1st to the 3rd, over 45 celebrity guests from across fandom will be landing at the Tampa Bay Convention Center, and it's going to be spectacularific. Yeah, it's so good, I had to make up a word for it. So good, in fact, that we also had to have them as today's sponsor. I mean, the Tampa Bay Comic Convention is giving you a chance to meet TV's original Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, and the Dread Pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride on the same weekend. Immediately sold, right? I know. But wait, they also have over 20 special guest artists, comic creators, and authors with fan favorite names such as G. Willow Wilson and Dan DiDio. On top of that, there will be celebrity Q&As, trivia, workshops with authors, a cosplay contest, and hundreds of vendors with exclusive and one-of-a-kind fandom merch, art, comics, music, and more. Again, it's all going down August 1st through the 3rd at the Tampa Bay Convention Center, which is just 6 weeks away. So do yourself a favor and snag your tickets now at tampabaycomicconvention.com. And if you use our code VARIANT, you'll save 20% on all ticket types. Not to mention, if you have a child person, kids 10 and younger are free with an adult ticket, so they can come too. Just click the link in the description below and use our code VARIANT to get 20% off.
All right, getting back to Absolute Batman, we are then taken to a nice fancy yacht where we meet the leader of the brand new villains, the Party Animals, the gang of villains that Alfred has been sent to Gotham to stop and or surveil. And we see their leader is crazy, so crazy he keeps the faces of the gang leaders he's killed, like the Maronis and Falcones, on display as museum pieces. And he uses them to intimidate the other Maronis and Falcones he's working with before killing them and taking their faces. We then of course see the reason Bruce couldn't make it to poker night with his friends is because it's time to gear up as Batman, as we see him put on his cowl with his cape fluttering in the wind. And as he's gearing up, we see news reports saying the question is, who are these monsters, these party animals? Some say kids gone mad, as we learn the party animals had just hacked people apart with machetes. They then say tonight Mayor Jim Gordon is holding an emergency town hall to discuss what to do about the party animals' reign of terror. That's right, yet again, things are different. Jim Gordon is no longer a lieutenant or commissioner. He is now the mayor of Gotham, and he's addressing the city on how they should deal with these party animals. But the city's people don't care what Jim has to say, as the civilians of Gotham are pissed at the cops because so many people are still dying in the streets, as a man yells at the cops, "You can't do anything." It's at this point the party animals crash the party, with one of them pointing a gun at Jim saying, "Hi Jimmy, bye Jimmy." He then unleashes fire on Gordon. Barbara then comes over to her dad, who we see is a deputy, grabbing his hand, but Jim just says, "Barbara, just get everyone out of here, now." One of the party animals then says, "Anyone want to beg? Tell us about your kids, your sick grandma. We love that." No? All right then, rip them up. But before they could do any more damage, they're ripped out of the doorway from what looks like a spider leg or a tendril of some sort. GCPD from inside says, "What the hell was that?" And as the door slams, Barbara says, "We need to secure the area." Batman then peeks through the door saying, "Whatever you hear, you don't open this door." We also see on a nearby rooftop, Pennyworth is up there watching the party animals with a sniper rifle in his hand. Someone tells him over the comm, "Pennyworth, report, casualty count." Pennyworth says, "None. The other player just arrived," referring to Batman. The person tells him if he disrupts the gathering, you engage. Pennyworth says, "Copy." Outside of the city hall, the party animals get up saying, "What happened?" As they look up, they see a gigantic humanoid-looking bat hanging upside down in front of City Hall. So they start firing at it, but as we know, this is Batman, so he drops a smoke bomb down. This blinds them for a moment as he comes swooping down in his beefy mammoth glory. Again, guys, this Batman is a slab of meat. Once Batman lands, he starts whipping the party animals around with his cape, which doesn't act like a normal cape. In fact, it acts more like a symbiote or some kind of tendril hook that he's able to use to grab and throw them around. It's pretty badass. They're like tendril whips. I'm really digging it. Anyway, as Batman is manhandling the party animals, Alfred looks through his scope saying, well, look at you go. Whoever you are, you've got flair. I'll give you that. Then someone we could only assume is Alfred's boss asks him over the comms, is the other player disrupting the scene Pennyworth? Now, Pennyworth knows full well he is, but he just tells his boss, still gathering. He's more than intrigued with this Batman. Alfred's narration continues to say, let's see what you do. All right, big guy, steady. Above all, focus. You've been waiting for this, haven't you? You have. You're trained too, mixed martial arts, your own blend, but you're a striker above all, brutal yet precise. You're putting on a show. A leg stomped on so everyone hears the crack. An arm snapped over your knee, sending a message. You're enjoying it too, and the knife work, my lord, you miss each artery by just enough. No fatalities at all, not one. So an idealist, bloody hell. As we're watching Batman tear into the party animal gang with ease, Batman even pulls out his bat ears that are knives and batarangs now to hack into his victims. At this point, Batman has soloed around 20 party animal gang members, and he's standing at the top of a staircase. But one party animal says, "Move." And this is the Andre the Giant of the group, who's holding a butcher knife while telling Batman, "This has killed more people than you can count. Now I'm gonna give you one chance. Get the hell out of my way." Batman just grabs a handle from his utility belt, then clips it to his bat symbol, ripping it off, revealing his bat symbol is a damn battle axe blade, which is why it's so big and chunky. A lot of people were making fun of this bat symbol, saying it looks dumb, it's too chunky, there was no thought put into its design. But how you feeling now? Cause this is awesome. That's why you always hold your final opinion till you read the book, watch a show, or watch the movie. Then with Batman's first swing, he takes the dude's hand off. Batman says, "I hear they can reattach them sometimes. There's a hospital 3 blocks south of here, or is it east? I can't seem to remember all of a sudden, but I'd run." Essentially pouring salt on an open wound. Then he looks at the rest of the gang saying, "I'm going to give you one chance to get the hell out of my way," as he hunches over and spikes start protruding from his back as he literally looks like a bat demon with spikes and a battle axe. This Batman is terrifying. As Pennyworth watches, he says, "Well done." But if you were a true tactician, you'd have set up traps for those fleeing as he sets off a bomb to stop the party animals from fleeing. Pennyworth's boss then says, "What's going on over there? The satellite images make no sense. Whoever the player is, you are to engage. Copy?" Alfred says, "Copy." As he goes down to confront Batman, Alfred then puts a gun to Bruce's head saying that this is the sound of a DC-34 automatic shotgun, son. There are only 3 of them in the world. It could blow your brains all over the sidewalk before you even blink. But before Alfred could even blink, Batman kicks him right in the chest, grabbing the gun from Alfred saying, "Sounds dangerous," before he disappears. We are then taken to the next day where we learn that Bruce is a construction worker. That's right, the billionaire playboy is no longer a billionaire playboy. He is just a blue-collar 24-year-old from Gotham. As Alfred continues to narrate saying, "The next day everyone's talking about it. Who is the Batman? Who are you really? Bruce Wayne? You hide your tracks well, but it's easy when you're no one. Just some guy, 24 years old. Mom is a social worker. Dad is a teacher. You grew up in crime alley, friends in low places, a tight group. You're smart, excelling in school. Your parents have you tested and you score near genius level. Then in 5th grade, you win a student engineering competition, creating a mobile collapsible bridge that could be used to bring to locations hit by catastrophic damage from war and cataclysm. The design is origami-like, based on the anatomy of bat wings," telling us this is what he eventually turned into his cape and why it seems to be alive and move the way it does. And the price is a trophy, a trip for your whole class to go to Gotham Zoo, where it starts. As we learn, that day in the zoo, there was a shooting in which Bruce's dad was killed. As we see his dad save Bruce and the rest of the class, locking them in the bat enclosure. Narration from Alfred continues to say, after that, you lose yourself for a while. As we see Bruce get arrested, lash out, rage at the world. But then you find yourself again. Something inspires you, which of course is a bat. You straighten out. You go back to school and you get a scholarship to the best university in the state. But when you get there, you're injured in the first week, a soft tissue tear. I've seen the x-rays though, and I've been in command of injuries to escape duty, and I suspect that's exactly what you did. But why? You were good enough to be a star, even go pro, because you were saving your body for last night. For all this, whatever it is you've built. You studied applied mechanics, chemistry, criminal psychology, military theory, social culture history, everything to prepare, and then you come home. You set up in Gotham and work in the power grid, then the water department, next sanitation. Essentially, Alfred goes on to find out and tell us that after his dad died, he did what any Batman from any universe would do and hone his mind and body to become a living weapon to protect his city, Gotham. But in this universe, Bruce had to work harder as he didn't have the financial benefits the Bruce Wayne we all know has. This is literally started from the bottom, now I'm here Batman. But he still doesn't have all the financial resources of the normal Prime Earth Batman. And also, one of Bruce's parents is still alive, his mom, who we see waiting for Bruce on her apartment stoop saying, "Seriously making your poor old mother wait for you out in the cold hard streets of Gotham?" Bruce apologizes saying, "Sorry mom, I just swung by the zoo," with her saying forgiven, as he obviously swung by to think about his father. And while this is happening, we see Alfred is tracking and spying on Bruce while he was narrating, giving us his origin. Alfred then pulls out his phone, receiving a text from his daughter Julia, which says, "Never contact me again." And he says to himself, "I could kill you right here in front of her. It'd be easy. It's what I should do. But you're just a kid," as Bruce walks into the apartment with his mother. I gotta say, it's good to see Bruce with at least one parent alive, especially if you're a Batman fan. But the next night we see Bruce in his Batcave, which is just the top of a building. The top floor is owned by companies and oligarchs who never use them. Just hollow investments. So Bruce, knowing this, has fashioned one of the floors into his Batcave. But remember, Alfred is also tracking him down. And when he pulls a gun on Batman, Batman does the same exact thing with the shotgun he took from Alfred earlier on. But Alfred says, "Give me the gun, kid. You're not a killer." As Batman shoots Alfred with it right in the head before getting on Alfred's motorcycle and driving it out the top of the building window. Captions from Alfred say, and then a few things happen very fast. First, I realized he modified my prized shotgun to be non-lethal. Ruined it. So he didn't really kill Alfred, although that would have been nuts. Alfred then thinks to himself he ruined my gun, stole my motorcycle, and rode it out the top of a building window. Where the hell is he going to land? Alfred continues to think Gotham may not be that bad these days, clearly liking the challenge of the Batman. Then in the epilogue of the book, the last page, Alfred promises his boss he'll get Batman the next time he interferes. We then see two helicopter pilots picking up one of the 30 richest men on the planet, with his alias being Jack Arthur. One of the pilots says, "Think you'd want to be my rich, generous best friend?" The other pilot says, "Don't do that. Don't joke." He asks why. The pilot responds, "You didn't hear? The guy never laughs. Not at anything. Ever. That's why they call him the Joker." As we see this world's Joker enter the helicopter. And with that, the issue ends. But we're going to keep this origin train running with part 2 of the Zoo in Absolute Batman issue 2.
The issue starts off the same as issue 1, with another flashback to the day Bruce's father was murdered at the Gotham Zoo. You see, in issue 1, we learned that Thomas Wayne was a middle school teacher who had taken his entire class, including his son Bruce, to the zoo that day, when some psycho randomly opened fire on the crowd. Thomas immediately realized what was going on and rushed his son and all of his students into the bat enclosure, and while Bruce begs him to come inside with them, Thomas knows there's not enough room and tells him, "Whatever you hear, do not open this door." We then see him close them inside and immediately becomes the shooter's next victim. Now, going back to the first page of issue 2, we return to that moment and see a pretty heartbreaking panel with a mortally wounded Thomas Wayne slouched over against the outside of the door of the bat enclosure and Bruce on the inside calling out for his dad to open the door. And if that's not traumatic enough, at that moment, Bruce looks behind him to see a screeching bat starting to make its way towards him, before an entire colony of bats comes flying in and completely engulfs him. On the next page, we are taken to present day at Gotham Aquarium, where Batman is in the middle of an all-out assault on members of the Party Animals gang, who are still wreaking havoc across Gotham. And as Batman is completely destroying these goons, we get narration from Alfred that says, "Over the next 2 weeks, the Party Animals escalate their offensive on Gotham, and in return, Batman escalates his offensive on them. He isn't everywhere, but he seems to know where their biggest attack will be, and he meets them head on. Like tonight at the aquarium, and for my part, I've tried to help him. Added surveillance protections, because the more he disrupts, the more Sionis steps up the battle, the more data I collect, which gets me that much closer to leaving Gotham." Alfred continues, "Lately Sionis has brought in more of them, his party animals, enough to take a small militia. When I was in Special Forces, my commanders always said what makes a great leader is knowing when to advance forward and when to retreat and regroup. Campaigns are long, one AF, one RR. Every battle, I think this is where he'll realize it's time to retreat and regroup. And yet, he plans everything, uses everything." And again, as Alfred is saying all this, Absolute Batman is using every savage weapon at his disposal to utterly annihilate the party animals. He even uses his technologically advanced cape to shatter the massive aquarium tank to flood them out while he hangs from the ceiling. Alfred then continues to narrate the scene saying, "A fighter who knows the terrain takes advantage." At which point we see Batman drop a pellet of concentrated vinegar into the salt water the party animals are now standing in, which turns it into hydrochloric acid, causing all of them to run out of the building and into the waiting arms of the GCPD, who have surrounded the place. We then see Batman flee the scene as narration from Alfred continues to say, "He has stash houses all over the city, not one, but many. Caves, I haven't been able to pinpoint more than a few, but from his movements, I've plotted a line on which the others might be located." But we then jump to a shocked Alfred who is looking at the map of Bruce's movements on his computer and realizes that the lines form his bat symbol, followed by Alfred saying to himself, and if anything, he's certainly committed to the bit. Now, as we saw in issue 1, Alfred is some kind of operative who has been sent to investigate Sionis and his party animals. But that mission placed him directly in the path of Batman and his war against the gang, which has made Alfred incredibly interested in Batman's tactics and what makes Bruce tick. As such, he continues to work through the intelligence he's gathered, explaining, when he's not the Bat, his routine is monistically tight. He goes to work, then vanishes into the shadows. There's a rumor he meets with the Red Hood, a suspected resistance group. But the truth is, he's a man alone. He even steers clear of his mother these days. However, this narration gets particularly interesting when Alfred tells us that Bruce breaks from routine only once over the past weeks, to make a stop that caught him off guard, as we see Blackgate Penitentiary, where Bruce only deviates from his pattern to visit his father's killer, Joe Chill. Alfred tells us what he says to Chill, I don't know. I only have visual, no audio, but I can imagine, and I only like him more for it, which is really smart dialogue that paints a great character profile picture for us about both Batman Batman and Alfred. Anyway, Alfred continues to say, another week in, my handler tells me I have to drop protections from Batman. They say he's become too volatile a factor. I consider pushing back, telling him that Batman has helped my mission, that in fact his provocations have helped me form a new theory on who Sionis is, what he's a part of. I think about making my case. Instead, I remove the protections. Soon after, the party animals find his caves in the empty high-rises, as I did. I try to picture Bruce up there. At the moment he finally understands, when he sees and gets the message, retreat and regroup, Batman. But that moment doesn't come, and it hits me then. Maybe that's what he is, one long advance forward. And as Alfred is filling us in on all this, we watch as the party animals search for Bruce in one of his high-rises. But Batman, of course, knows they're coming, and he watches from a nearby rooftop. He then waits for them to reach a high enough floor on the high-rise before triggering a series of rigged explosives that destroy the building, with the party animals inside. However, Batman uses this to make his point crystal clear because he rigs the explosives so that the explosions would create an image of Batman's cowl in the flames. And I gotta tell you, this is one of the cooler panels and pages we've seen in a Batman comic in a very long time. That building burning in the outline of Batman's cowl is just perfection. Overall, this Batman is just insanely good so far, and let me tell you something, just wait until you see the Batmobile. Alright, getting back to Absolute Batman, we are then taken to a Gotham hospital where Mayor Jim Gordon is recovering after being shot by the party animals in the previous issue. We see him watching a local news interview with his political opponent in the upcoming election, and the reporter asks former Mayor Hill about surprising public support for the Batman despite the rising crime in Gotham. To which Hill responds, "It's why I'm running again. Crime has gotten so bad under Mayor Gordon that people are looking to an actual criminal for help. Think about that. When there's no good left, the choice becomes the lesser of all evils." But the reporters then ask Hill about his own lingering corruption charges, which I gotta say is such an accurate depiction of real-world politicians. Anyway, the banged-up Gordon then asks Bullock to turn off the TV. Bullock says, "Sure, Jimmy, I just thought you'd want to know what's going on. Full disclosure, I put in a request to state for 4 RVs plus an MD for coverage." But Jim replies to him by saying, "You and I both know more guns doesn't always equal more winning." A clearly frustrated Bullock tells him, "Yeah, well, maybe we didn't use enough over there. Either way, we need to take him down fast." But Barbara Gordon, who is also a cop and in the room, speaks up and asks, "Him? You mean Batman? Shouldn't the focus be the party animals?" Bullock snaps back, "They're upping because he's upping." So she reminds him, "You do remember when he saved your life, right? And mine and Dad's?" But Bullock tells her, "Barb, for all we know, he's on their side. Some kind of secret partner trying to make us look bad." But Barbara just points out, then why is he calling in tips to Central as to where they'll hit next? Why is he fighting them? However, before Bullock can respond, their conversation is interrupted when Bruce's mom, Martha, arrives to visit Jim. And as she starts to ask how Gordon is doing, Bullock gets a call about the party animals tearing up the Port Authority. He then tells Barbara they have to head over there, so Barb says goodbye to her dad, and the two head out. A concerned Martha then turns to Jim and says, "She's a good kid," to which Jim replies, "Too good." Martha then opens the window and lights a cigarette as Jim says, "What is this world we've given them, Mar? When we were their age, we were crazy, sure, thinking we could change it all, but it still felt possible then, you know?" She responds, "Yeah, well, I guess they'll have to be even crazier than we were." Gordon then looks at her saying, "You almost sound like Thomas," as she takes a puff of her cigarette saying, "Don't I know it? God, I miss him, Jimmy. It's funny. I actually think he would have liked Batman." She then hands him her cigarette and he tells her, "I like him, but now I like you better." Obviously, through this conversation, we can see that Gordon has been close friends with the Wayne family for a long time. So Jim goes on to tell her that his chances at re-election are a long shot, and while she subtly tries to encourage him, his tone turns more somber as we learn that Jim was one of the detectives who responded to the shooting at the Gotham Zoo all those years ago, and that he was the one who found Thomas's body, as well as Bruce in the bat enclosure. He tells Martha, "You know, I still think about it every day, Mar, when I found him." Then as we see a flashback of Jim finding Bruce with bats swarming all over him, Gordon continues to say, "I didn't see him at first, didn't even know he was there, until he screamed. That scream." Jim then asks, "How is he?" But a now dejected Martha says, "Honestly, I don't know. Before that day, he was my little boy. He told me everything, every dumb detail of his day. His whole inner life was mine to know. Now, I barely know him at all." And this comes with even more flashbacks of Bruce turning inward, throwing his science fair medal out the window in anger, and secluding himself from his mother and friends after his father's death. We're then taken to Bruce in the present as he finally makes it to a poker night with his friends, which is another callback to the first issue. And as a reminder, in this universe, all of Bruce Wayne's childhood friends are members of his rogues gallery from the main DC universe. So as he he arrives, we see his now adult buddies are Waylon Jones, Eddie Nigma, Ozzy Cobblepot, and Harvey Dent. They just haven't taken on their supervillain personas in this universe, at least not yet. I'll also add he's friends with Selena Kyle too, but we'll get to that in a bit. Anyway, as Bruce walks in, they all start heckling him because he never shows up. But after they start a round of poker, Bruce brings up the party animals to see if any of his buddies have any intel. Harvey and Ozzy in particular, and that's because Harvey works for the DA and Oz always has his ears to the ground because of his questionable business dealings. So as their game goes on, Bruce raises Harvey 20, and Harvey says, "I see you," and raise 200, followed by asking Bruce to show his cards. And this is where it gets interesting, and you really see that Bruce is working his friends to see what they know and how they can help him. Because instead of putting his cards on the table, Bruce says, "How about this?" as he slams a party animal mask, also known as a gorilla skull, onto the poker table. A freaked out Waylon immediately says, "Get it out of here." Harvey then agrees, saying, "No monkey bones in the pot." But Bruce tells them it's not actually an ape skull. Take a look at the wiring. A curious Eddie, who is the genius in the group, says, "He's right. I see 4 different chips just in the outer weave. That one looks like a geographical information system." Ed then goes on to explain that it maps shared targets onto a private GPS network, assigns different values, meaning if one knew how to decode it, one could possibly get a bead on where the party animals were going to show up next. But these other chips, wow, this is actually Premiere. And while Eddie is relaying all this, we see that this is exactly how Batman has stayed ahead of the party animals and consistently known where they were going to strike next. But Bruce then asks Eddie, "More Premiere than what you do?" And a now insulted Nigma responds by lifting up the skull, saying, "Whoa there, big guy, them's fighting words. So I'll be borrowing this." Bruce then turns to Oz and says, "High tech, heavily armed, the party animals must be moving in on everyone's territory. Ozzy?" This clearly annoys Oz and he says, "Why would I know, Bruce? Just because my business is atypical, you think?" But Bruce cuts him off saying, "Relax, I was just asking if you're still in," referring to the card game. Harvey then sarcastically turns to Ozzy and says, "Atypical, that's good." But Ozzy ignores him and says, "For what it's worth, the party animals aren't moving in on anything. Far as I can tell, these guys are just out to wreck the city. Word is their man, Roman, he kills everyone who meets and tries to make a deal. And yeah, I'm out." Eddie and Waylon then fold as well, so Bruce says, "All right, Harv, you and me. I gotta ask though, you're deep in. You think it's political? The party animals causing havoc this close to an election. You think it's to sink Gordon?" Harvey tells him, "Nah, we all love Jim, but he was hurting before all the chaos. It'd be overkill, literally and figuratively. My 2 cents, if this is political, it's about more than just power," which causes Bruce to ask, what's a bigger motivator than power? Harvey just laughs and replies, "Spoken like a true crime alley boy. Money, brother, the source, the chicken and the egg." Harvey then shows his hand with 2 pairs, but Bruce beats him with 3 aces and says, 4 if we're playing with jokers. But Harvey reminds him jokers are never welcome here, Bruce. Which is of course a not so subtle foreshadow because the absolute joker was teased on the very last page of the first issue. Anyway, on the next page we see Batman rappelling down the side of a building as captions of Harvey from the poker game say, "Look, I don't know if it has anything to do with the party animals, but from what I hear in the halls, Hill has been taking in a lot of capital. Like, a lot. This guy I know who works in his office, young guy named Hattie, scumbag. But still, he says he's riding high on some new purse he calls his golden chest." Bruce then asks, "What is it? Donor? Corporate?" And Harvey tells him, "I don't know, Bruce. No one knows. It's one coin nobody wants to flip over. Except Batman, that is, because as the dialogue finishes, we see him breaking into the Hill for Mayor campaign office." Also, the fact that Bruce only hung out with his friends to gather intel is both really messed up and peak Batman. Anyway, on the next page, we see Batman breaking into Hill's campaign office, where he finds his laptop. He says to himself, "A golden chest, also known as an Ark," as we see him find a file on Hill's laptop labeled Ark-M, or Arkham, and starts to copy it. But just as Batman's doing this, the black mask pops up on the screens in front of him saying, "Well, hello there. Finally, Batman, we meet. Now, unfortunately, we don't have much time to chat. I like you, I do. You're my kind of party, so I'll make you a deal. Everything you've ever wanted, but full disclosure, you're in a bit of a spot. We did tip off the whole GCPD, and my people have the building surrounded. Still, I'll be waiting on your call. All you have to do is survive." At which point we see one of the party animals fire a missile at the office Batman is in. To no one's surprise though, Batman emerges from the flames and makes his way down an elevator shaft. He then lands on top of a hatch and opens the hatch door. However, when he goes to get inside, he's greeted by Alfred, who says, "Hear me out." Batman just gives him an abrupt no. But Alfred tells him, "You're a good detective, kid, but I've learned some things about them. The party animals. They're not what they seem. I've come to believe that we can help each other here. Just give me a chance to explain, please." So Batman reluctantly responds, 30 seconds. Alfred says, "All right. Thank you, but we need to get out of here. They're all over the place. We have to get somewhere safe, and I have a car hidden out back. Unless you have one. And without hesitation, we see Batman hit a gas pedal, sending Alfred flying backward as he says, "You're standing in it." Then on the next page, we see that they were inside Batman's Batmobile as it comes roaring out of the building. This is that epic splash page that DC released at New York Comic Con last month, and it reveals that the absolute Batmobile is built out of a massive earth mover Batman has tricked out and Batman themed. And he uses it to make his escape from the situation by plowing the road and flipping police cars like they're Hot Wheels with the massive bat-shaped battering ram on the front. Easily one of the most absurd and crazy Batmobiles ever created. And I mean that in the best way possible because it perfectly fits this complete beast of a Batman. I mean, come on. This thing is like a 3-story tactical dump truck. It's just insane and glorious. Anyway, after all that, the issue comes to an end with yet another flashback from Bruce's childhood. We see Selina Kyle climb through his bedroom window saying, "You lose something?" as she holds the science fair medal we saw him throw out the window earlier. She then tells him, "Get up, you're coming with me."
Alright, so issue 3 of Absolute Batman starts in the past with a young Bruce chasing a young Selina on top of rooftops. If you remember from the last issue, during the same flashback, she stole this medal to get him to chase her, so this picks up where that left off. As he's chasing her, we see she's wearing a cat hoodie, which is a nice little touch since we know in the main continuity, Selina Kyle is Catwoman. Anyway, Bruce sees her walking across the cable and says, "The cable, are you crazy? We could die." She tells Bruce it's 2 measly stories. At most, you'd break a leg or 2, but you're not going to because you're gonna keep your eyes ahead, cat style. As he's doing it, he says, "What?" She tells him, "Cats can see great, but only for a short distance, so don't see the drop. Don't see anything at all past the ledge right here. Got it?" He almost makes it across, but right when he's on the other side, he starts to fall. But she catches him saying, "Look at me, you're okay, but for the rest of the night," and Bruce finishes, "Cat eyes. I got it." The book then takes us to the present where Batman is driving through Gotham in his giant bat-themed dump truck. Captions from Alfred say, "I've spent more than 4 decades cultivating a life of stealth. I have over 20 passports, twice as many identities. I pride myself on being no one, the vague shape of a man sitting across from you on the train. An outline, a charcoal sketch. 40 years of creating a life in the shadows, all to find myself driving down Broadway on the hood of a giant bat-themed dump truck. And suddenly, it occurs to me, I may actually hate Batman." Alfred asks Batman, "What the hell are you doing? You can't just plow straight through the city. They'll overtake us in no time." Batman replies, "Then you better talk fast. I gave you 30 seconds to make your case. It starts now." In the previous issue, Alfred wanted to work with Batman, but Batman is making him explain why he should. Alfred says, "In my field, there are rumors of a man called the Black Mask. He's the leader of a paramilitary group that serves some of the most powerful people on the planet. Local governments, violent disruption. I believe that Roman Sionis, the leader of the party animals, may be the Black Mask." As Alfred and Batman continues to get shot at by the party animals, Batman says, 25 seconds. Alfred replies, "I hate to break it to you, but we're not going to last 5 damn seconds. We need to abandon this thing and find a vehicle that can go fast." Batman then presses some buttons saying, "I'll pretend you didn't say that." He essentially then turns the dump truck into sport mode as it blasts off like a race car, leaving the party animals in the dust. Alfred replies, "I may actually love Batman." On the next panel, as Batman and Alfred Pennyworth speed off in his mega Batmobile, Alfred continues to tell Bruce, "Listen to me, damn it, I can help you." Batman replies, "So close the hatch and prove it. 15 seconds. So Alfred gets inside a gunner's chair, unloading artillery on the party animals. As he's shooting, Alfred says, "Fine, but if Sionis is Black Mask, then he's too big to fight, too dangerous. He's got endless resources." As Alfred fires at the party animals, he says to himself, "Mini bat projectiles, each with a different electrical charge, designed to blow tires." So no, they're not deadly rounds. They're of course specific rounds made to take people down without killing them. Batman replies to Alfred about Black Mask having endless resources, saying, "I'll build bigger then." 10 seconds. Alfred says, "There's no way to build enough. Not against this. But he offered you a deal back there. I heard him. That means he's ready to compromise. My guess is whatever he's been trying to achieve with these attacks on Gotham is almost done." Batman asks, "What are you saying?" Alfred tells him, "I'm saying you meet him. Agree to step down your fight. I'll bet he'll lower the attacks on Gotham to almost nothing. Maybe even stop them. You get to be the hero." Batman asks, "By quitting?" "Forget it." Alfred tells him, "By saving lives through diplomacy. By being a grown-up. And if that's not enough, Black Mask serves some of the richest global plutocrats. This offer is probably for 100 million, maybe more. You take it, you could set Batman up as something real here, something with impact." Batman asks, "And what's in it for you?" Alfred tells him, "For Sionis to make the deal, he'll need to make transactions that will likely give my people all they need on him. So me, I get to leave this city and you get to build Batman big, really big." As Batman launches a giant wrecking ball from the dump truck, truck taking out party animals. He then asks, and Sionis just gets away? Alfred tells him no. We'll use the intel we get here to apprehend him down the line. I promise, we will all win. At this point, the GCPD catches up to Batman once again, and Harvey Bullock gets out on the bullhorn saying, "This is Commissioner Harvey Bullock. You will exit the vehicle now, and whoever else you got in there. You hear me? There's nowhere left to go. It's over." Cornered at Gotham Harbor, Alfred says, "We make a decent team, kid. Tell me you have something to get us out of this one, and let's keep it going." Batman replies, "The lever in front of you." Alfred pulls it, and it ejects him out of the Batmobile and into the water as Batman drives into the harbor. We see the Batmobile is waterproof as he drives it underwater and into one of his bat caves. We are then taken back to the past where Bruce is still following Selina on rooftops. She leads him to a bunch of cats, and while they're talking, he asks, "How is it?" She says, "Not there anymore." He asks, "Why? What happened?" She replies, "Look, some people like the idea of a foster kid, but not the real thing. That's in a good case. This was a bad case." Bruce says, "Man, what is that, 3 homes in the last year?" She says, 4, but who's counting? And she's doing this while she pets cats. Bruce asks, "Well, where are you now?" She tells him, "I'm here with you and them. See, that's the thing, Wayne. Whatever is happening, I come up here. And these guys, they always show up purring too." Bruce asks her, "What if you come stay with me? With us, I mean." She says, "Wayne, stop." He tells her, "No, my mom loves you. You could just..." But she just interrupts saying, "No, I said no, okay? Let's talk about something else, something happy." She then leads him to a movie theater that they sneak into as Zorro begins playing. He looks at her suspiciously asking, "What do you think you're doing?" Now, we all know in the main universe, Zorro was the movie Bruce and his parents were seen at Monarch Theater the night his parents were gunned down in Crime Alley. But the significance of it in this universe is different, and we'll learn that in a second. After this, we are brought back to the present where Bruce meets up with his buddy Edward Nygma, who he gave a gorilla skull in the last issue to figure out how it works. We see that Eddie has created an AI Terminator-looking robot with it, and even tells Bruce, "Ask a question." Bruce says, "I came to talk to you, man." Edward replies, "But he is me, and you, and everyone. He contains about 4/5 of all human knowledge and counting, so go on." Bruce asks, "Does he have a name?" Eddie replies, "I was thinking Al after Al Turning, the Library of Alexandria, and as a visual play on AI, of course. But now I'm just thinking something with riddles. Riddle Man, because the great riddle of humanity is how to live forever. Am I right? And we all exist inside this dude, but I digress." This clearly tells us that this AI robot Eddie created will become this world's Riddler. It's even green and has purple question marks all over it, created by Edward. Bruce stares and sighs, saying, "Yo, Al, how did the party animals' ape skulls work?" The AI responds, "Well, Bruce, the mask has 3 functions. 1, it completely obfuscates the identity from all global or local deciphering means. 2, it creates a wallet for the wearer connected to a highly protected private network of cryptocurrency called the Black Coin. And 3, as you know, it provides objectives and targets for war with different valuations, such as arson, robbery, murder. Each has a different value in Black Coin. But we're talking tens and hundreds of thousands. Members can get quite wealthy quite fast." Bruce asks, "How would someone disrupt it? This network?" Al replies, "This network is far too expansive for anyone to bring down. You could take out a local server, but the network is satellite-based. There are deposits of these masks all over the world. Hundreds, maybe thousands of members." Bruce says there has to be a way. Al tells him there is not. Bruce responds, "But see, you don't actually know everything, Al." Eddie interjects saying, "Just destroy the mask and forget it." Al jumps in saying, "He doesn't want to help you, Bruce. Even if he could, I may not know everything, but I know that much." Bruce asks, "Why? I'm just asking questions." Eddie replies, "You know what the oldest riddle is, Bruce? What building does a man walk into blind and walk out with sight? A school. Knowledge is vision. Me, I see a lot. Too much sometimes. Admittedly, it's why friendship hasn't been easy to find and why I value yours so much. So this is me looking at you and asking you to please stop." Bruce then tells Eddie to hold as Harvey calls in, and Harvey tells him, "I did what you asked. Looked into the Arkham Fund, though it could get my ass fired. A lot of the funding comes from a company called JK Holdings. Highly diversified subsidiaries across the globe, but one specialty is building secure facilities. Private prisons, Bruce. And not just ordinary ones either. Black sites. And these sites, they have investments from biotech, pharma, even genomic firms. Whatever's happening at these places, it's not good." From here, we see Commissioner Bullock meet up with former Mayor Hill, who introduces him to Mr. Roman Sionis. This happens on a big fancy yacht, but when Hill brings Bullock to Sionis, he's currently wrestling Bibbo Babowski. What's really funny about this is that Babowski is actually a deep pull. He's Superman's greatest fan in the main continuity, but in this story, he's an MMA fighter taking on Black Mask. As he wrestles, Black Mask talks to Bullock saying, "Your city, you could use some peace these days. Under your boss Jim Gordon, some very bad people are tearing Gotham apart." He then breaks Babowski's arm as Bullock says, "Look, I'm not going to stand here and let you badmouth Jimmy." Black Mask replies, "Never. Jim Gordon is a good man. We all agree, and you two were core together." I get it, that's a real bond. But the fact is, the party animals are degenerates. Young, godless, believing in nothing. They're filth, and they're growing in number. Between them and this Batman, you have to get things under control now, or it's all gonna fall apart fast. Hearts and minds, soft laws. You know what that leads to. Bullock says, war. Black Mask then puts Lebowski in a chokehold saying, bingo. I've seen it happen in cities all over the world. Hell, I grew up in one. Now, I hear you requested 4 RVs and 1 air. My people can get you 10 and plenty of choppers, all through state channels, all above board. So how about it? What do you say? As Lebowski taps out, clearly suffocating, Bullock says, all right, man, he's had enough, is he? Black Mask gets up saying, no, don't worry about him, Commissioner. He'll be fine. Now come, let's talk about peace. But it's clear Lebowski won't be fine because he's clearly dead. This scene makes it clear that Black Mask is manipulating Bullock and trying to win him over by convincing him he's there to help, while actually being the one behind everything. And Bullock seems like he's gonna fall for it because he's blinded by desperation to stop this war by any means necessary. We then return to Bruce, who's setting up a camera on a hillside. Narration from Alfred says, are your eyes open yet, Bruce? You're starting to see the pieces. They call them arcs. These black sites, secret unregulated prisons run in conjunction with other governments around the world. Arc A was the first, the prototype in Santa Prisca. Arc B is in Russia. Arc C is in China. As Bruce looks through his camera, he says, the hell? The narration continues, wherever you are, I hope it's finally coming into focus. The biggest yet is planned for Gotham. Look at it, Bruce. Look at what you're up against and all you could lose. Bruce sees that the structure being built is Arkham Asylum. So these arcs, these black site prisons, are essentially the prototypes for what would become Arkham Asylum in Gotham, which is a pretty interesting take. We are then taken back to the past where Bruce is in the theater with Selina watching Zorro. As he tries to leave, Selina grabs his arm and he says, get off me, Selina. She interrupts saying, no, that day, you remember the joke you made to your dad about the lion, how the lion had it made at that zoo. He says, so what? She tells him, and your father, he said, maybe the lion was safe and cozy, but it didn't mean anything. She continues, well, this is your chance to mean something, Bruce. You've got talent other kids don't have. And yes, it's scary and dangerous and new, but you need to block that out and go right at it. Cat eyes. He says, I'm leaving, but all his other friends like Eddie and Harvey hold him down with popcorn and candy, forcing him to watch the movie. Essentially, they're showing him Zorro as a way of alluding to what he needs to become, a hero with his gifts to save people. We then jump back to the present as Bruce visits his mom and says, look, with the party animals loose, I was thinking maybe you could kind of lie low. She tells him the chaos is exactly why I can't lie low, Bruce. In fact, I'm stepping in as Jim's deputy mayor. I'm on my way to the office press event right now, as she puts on a Vote Gordon for mayor pin. Bruce gets frustrated and says, why would you do that? The party animals keep targeting officials, stepping up attacks. You're putting a bullseye on yourself. She replies, I believe in what Jim is trying to do, and I won't just watch the city collapse. I'm going to try to help. He then says, and what if you can't? What if it's all too big? She tells him, then you try anyway. That's who we are, who I am, who your father was. Bruce says, and look how it turned out for him. She grabs him saying, I'm going to kiss you now so I don't slap you. Goodbye, Bruce. Clean up when you're done. We then see captions from Alfred say, see, you can't do it, kid, as we see Alfred watching his daughter Julia at a school where she's a teacher. Captions from Alfred continue to say, you can't protect them. It doesn't matter how brave you are or how skilled you are or how right you are. There's only one thing you could do to keep them safe, and that's accept it. We see on the news that the party animals are still terrorizing the city and that Mayor Gordon is still hospitalized. Hill, who's running for mayor, says, Gordon's vision has failed you, failed the city. I'm proud to have the endorsement of Commissioner Bullock and the GCPD. It's time for us to take back Gotham together. He proposes that this year, for the first time since the Gotham Zoo shooting, they do not turn on the memorial light. He says it would be a mockery to see it bright in the sky with blood running in the streets. And amidst all this, people are wondering, where is the Batman? How will he respond? Which again really further builds on Hill's attempt to position himself as a savior while secretly working with Black Mask. But on the final page of the issue, we find Batman on the phone with Black Mask, and Black Mask tells him, that's right, $200 million to stand down for 1 week, and I'll make sure we go a little bit easier on all of Gotham. Now, I can't see you, but I hope you're smiling just thinking about it. Thinking about all the good Batman could do with that kind of money. The cars, the weapons, the tech. He'll be something larger than life, something epic. Batman will. Bruce interrupts, saying, enough, I'll take the deal. This decision is no doubt influenced by the conversation he had with Alfred earlier, where Alfred told him, you can't stop Black Mask. He's everywhere. He's got way more resources than you, people all around the world. There's no stopping him. But he wants to make a deal, so it makes sense to take it. With the money he's offering, you could build yourself into something epic, and I'll be able to track him down through those transactions to eventually put him away. It's a win-win. Now, at first, Bruce was still against it, but then Eddie and his Riddler robot echoed Alfred's sentiment, saying there's no way to stop Black Mask outright. Finally, Bruce learned his mom was going to be deputy mayor, making her a target for the party animals. So if he didn't strike some sort of deal, his mom would likely end up dead. So with all this to consider, Bruce ultimately takes the deal. At least that's how it seems. And issue 4 takes a break from the ongoing story in the series to give us an absolute Batman Year 1 story, showing us how Bruce got his start as Batman in this universe. The issue opens up with a flashback of the day a young Bruce is brought to court to hear the statement from Joe Chill, the murderer of his father. The judge tells Bruce, Mr. Wayne, for the court's clarification, this morning Mr. Chill was prepared to give a statement, but you requested to speak first. You said it was urgent. It's unconventional, but given the extraordinary nature of this case, I've granted you that right. You can go ahead now, son. So what is it you have to say? We then see an angry Bruce with a single tear rolling down his cheek, but before he could speak, we're brought to Gotham, where a group of thugs or gang is talking to residents of Crime Alley. The man says, go on, convince me. Tell me why you three alone should be exempt when everyone else chips in. Some folks really have to scrounge. You don't want to know the things they do to contribute, but they have pride in this place. Historic Park Row. You know, these days people are calling it Crime Alley. So tell your neighbors out there why you don't care about your neighborhood, Mrs. Nguyen. She replies, I care plenty. My mother grew up here and I have 3 girls in school. Her friend Henry tries to interject, but she says, no, Henry, it doesn't matter. I won't pay a gang. The thug gets close to her and says, we're misunderstanding each other here. 10 Thieves isn't a gang. We only want to keep this place safe. Without proper funding though, we just can't do that. As he pushes her off the top of the building they're talking on. He then looks at the other 2 men on the building saying, see, we don't stay vigilant and things get real unpredictable real fast. You never know what could happen. But as he says that, Mrs. Nguyen is thrown back on top of the rooftop. Obviously the thug is like, what the hell? How did that happen? With everyone in shock, we see a vampire-looking Batman looming in the background. And I'm talking scary-looking Batman. He's got red and yellow eyes, fangs, straight up biting people in the neck, and even what looks like miniature Wolverine claws on his fist as he slashes into the thugs. They start shooting at him, but the bullets just bounce off his cape. He then grabs the gun from one of the thieves and points it at him as he snarls. We're then taken back to the past where Bruce is working on a project for school as he talks to his dad. He says, I chose a bat. His dad says, sorry, Bruce, chose a bat for what? He tells his father, the Young Engineers competition. It's held at the zoo this year. A lot of their animals come from distressed areas, so we have to build a bridge for a place like that, but themed around an animal. Bruce says, well, and his dad tells him, it's big. Bruce goes on to say, that's the idea, Dad. Bats are intimidating. I made the piers super high. Reinforce them. See, there are gates all along, which his dad doesn't seem too impressed with, saying, I just wonder if that's really the best strategy for a place in need. Intimidation? Bruce says, it'll make people inside feel safe, protected, and it's strong. I tested it up to 30 pounds. His dad pats him on the back and says, I mean, great job. I'm proud of you. Good luck with that, son. This flashback clearly mirrors what Bruce will be using a bat for when he's older and his reasoning behind it, behind Batman. After that, we're brought back to the present where more thugs come up the stairwell and tell Batman to drop it as he's pointing a gun at the head of a thug. He does and swings off the roof, getting away as captions from Bruce say, this is all wrong. What are you doing? It's just an act. The tricks, the face paint, the voice distorter, silicone fangs loaded with paralytic, and this, a gun. They're street criminals, the most desperate. Scare off the 10 thieves, others take their place. No, it's not enough. Batman needs to do more. Think bigger, so build him, Bruce, as we see Bruce basically throw away his whole original gimmick and interpretation of Batman. The fangs, the voice distorter, the vampire face paint, and even burning a gun. All of this mirrors Golden Age Batman, specifically the gun, as in Batman's first few appearances, he used the gun, but the character drifted away from that and learned to hate guns. Either way, it's really cool to see this process in absolute Batman. Bruce quickly learns fear and intimidation are tools, yes, but Batman has to be much bigger than just that. And this is where we start to see Bruce doing his research on crime in Gotham, learning where all the illegal weapons come from, how they get into Gotham, and what he discovers is they come from Florida, where gun and farm laws are looser. They call it the Orange Blossom Special. As we see Bruce spy on the import of all illegal guns and drugs, he says the materials come up in produce trucks because weight records are less exact. Citrus mostly. They say the guns smell like oranges when they fire. All of it comes to Gotham through checkpoints run by the Maronis and Falcones. The family shift the hot point each month to avoid raids. Raids they know are coming anyway. Look at them. They do it all in plain sight. And why not? They're not street criminals. They have deals with a dozen companies in Gotham and at least 3 banks. Bruce then says to himself they're just too damn large to take down, as we see him control an RC Roadster, driving it under one of the produce trucks, bringing in illegal guns and drugs. The drivers in the truck then see Batman standing in front of them and are obviously like, what in the hell? Run him down. But before they can, Batman pulls the trigger on his remote control as we see the RC car launch up a battle jack, as he calls it, to flip the semi-truck. Captions say an RC Roadster loaded with 4600 kV, some black paint, all under $1,000. The thieves then come out of the truck ready to take on Batman, but he makes quick work of them as we're taken back to the past where Bruce is still working on his school project. He tells his dad, check it out, I think I figured it out. Bats adapt. Besides rodents, there are actually more bat species than any other mammal on Earth. Why? Because they use echolocation to map an area. They learn it and they adjust to succeed there. This version, the pilings are adjustable. The deck is on rotators, the gutters can extend. His dad says, it's really impressive, bud. I love it. Bruce asks, you think it's good enough to win? His father tells him, I don't know, but all that matters is that you feel it's the best you can do, that it shows what's special about a bat at its core. Bruce says, I mean, I think so. How do you know what anything is at its core though? His dad responds, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's trial and error. You know, before you were born, all I wanted to be was a doctor, a heart surgeon. Bruce asks, why? And he says, when I was a kid, my dad, your grandpa, he drove the G39 bus route 6 days a week. On his day off though, the two of us would go down to Amusement Mile and walk out on the pier. There was a guy there who sold these frozen bananas dipped in chocolate, and we'd get one. I loved it. Anyway, one Sunday we were on our way and all of a sudden, my father just dropped. I thought he was playing a joke, Bruce, but then I saw his face. I knew he was dead. And that fear, that terror of being left alone like that. Bruce asks, what was it that killed him? His father responds, it was a massive coronary. The doctor said he was dead before he hit the ground. So it just became what I wanted to do, heart surgeon. I was about to start med school when we got pregnant with you. Bruce asks, so this is a guilt trip? His dad laughs and says no, but I did go through a period of searching, looking for what I wanted to be, who I was beyond a father, a husband. And what I realized was that my desire to be a doctor was really just about wanting to prevent other kids from feeling what I felt that morning. As a teacher though, I could make kids feel safe by preparing them for the world. Maybe in some other life, I am a doctor, but in this one, teaching gives me a way of doing that core thing. Anyway, I'm gonna help your mom with dinner, but this is amazing. Really. What's really cool about this back and forth between Bruce and his father is that we learn Bruce became Batman for the same reason his father wanted to become a doctor, to stop what happened to him from happening to anyone else. That didn't pan out for Thomas in this universe, so he became a teacher as he thought the second best thing he could do would be to teach kids and prepare them for the world. I just really like how this shows how much Bruce is like his father, as the whole reason he became Batman is to stop what happened to his parents from happening to any other child in Gotham. Obviously, Bruce took it to an extreme, as becoming a vigilante isn't the same as becoming a doctor, but nonetheless, it's the same mindset, wanting to help and save people. The comic then takes us back to Bruce in court, and the judge says, Bruce, it's time now. What is it you want to say? He says, I know Mr. Chill gets to make a statement today, but before that, I wanted to say that I've had a moment to think about everything that happened that day, and I just wanted to say what I realized. Because that morning, it was so perfect. I'd won the trip for our class, and I was walking into the zoo with my friends, and we were laughing about how weird the giraffes were, their tongues all long and black. But the best part was my dad. I was playing it like I didn't notice, but behind me, I caught glimpses, and he was so proud of me. And I knew in that moment that this was as happy as it gets, ever. I wanted to stay in it, to never leave. The book then jumps to Bruce still talking about the bridge with his dad as we see an older Bruce leaving Gotham. Bruce says, I think maybe I was still coming at it wrong, Dad. His dad says, oh yeah? How so? Bruce tells him, I was thinking about the bridge, not the people. That's where you start. The people, they just want to live, to flourish. But this place, like the assignment says, it's been hit by disaster. Maybe natural, more likely man-made, but it's still in trouble. The people, brave-faced or not, they've got to be worried about what's going to happen. They look around and see things falling apart. They're hurting. They're feeling like no one sees them, like they're at the mercy of all these forces that seem beyond their control. Powerless. Some are angry at everyone who let them down, and some are scared and hungering, but it's bad. Essentially, we're seeing Bruce finally figure out and work on what Batman needs to be via this childhood project he was working on. The comic then takes us back to Bruce in court one last time as he finishes saying to Joe Chill, you killed the happiness I was feeling that day, Mr. Chill, forever. So I'm not staying for anything you have to say. I don't care what made you do what you did. I just need you to know that I hate you. I hate you, you hear me? Yeah, that's pretty brutal. A heart-wrenching scene for sure. Jumping back to Bruce talking to his dad, we see an older Bruce wandering Batcaves, figuring out what Batman needs to be for Gotham. While young Bruce says to his dad, I'm saying maybe in another place and time, something else would be enough. But here, in this place at this moment, their bat needs to be all of it plus more. It should be intimidating, but even more so, as we see an older Bruce training, working out and lifting weights. Young Bruce continues to say, like scary, and it should be more adaptable than ever. It should map farther than before, roosting in all sorts of new places, just taking spots over. As we see Bruce building his bat armor and testing his gadgets, which are essentially his bat-like tendrils that he can control, while we simultaneously see Bruce unveil his new bridge design to his father. At the same time, we see an older Bruce working out his new designs for Batman. The younger Bruce shows his dad his new design and says, "Ta-da! It's got everything the other designs had, but this one, it's got one extra feature. It flies." Bruce's dad is like, "Come on." Bruce tells him, "Really, it's lightweight, foldable, so it can be dropped from a plane and parachute down, so the people can just set it up themselves. There are instructions here on this flap. See? It'd be a tool to use however they need. They don't have to rely on the powers that be to set it up. It makes the bridge theirs. They could use it for aid, for defense, even offense." Yet again, this mirrors what Batman would become. I really love how Scott Snyder used the past conversation with Bruce and his dad to be the basis and foundation of what Batman would ultimately become. In the present, we see a now fully realized absolute Batman spying on the corrupt wealth of Gotham, plotting his next move. As he says to himself, "No one can touch you up here, right? In this mad little kingdom of yours at the top of the world. Well, I'm coming for you," as he promises to bring justice to Gotham. We're then taken to the past one last time where Bruce is talking to his dad as he shows him this design. He says it even has buzzsaws for those hard to reach places. He then asks his dad, "What, too much?" His dad tells him, "Maybe too much is good these days." This is funny because a lot of people argue about what's too much, but his dad is kind of giving him a seal of approval, being like, maybe too much is a good thing nowadays. Bruce then says, "That's what I'm saying because I really thought about it. I did. And what makes a bat at its core for me is that it defies the impossible." This is followed by a panel of Batman being spotted by the GCPD on top of a roof, spying on the elites of Gotham's party. He then jumps off as captions from young Bruce continue to say, "It's the only mammal on Earth that flies, Dad. The only one. It's this crazy little creature that shows us we can beat anything holding us down. To this bat, nothing is impossible, despite what anyone tells you. It says go bigger, go higher, go places you didn't think you could." Young Bruce then asks his dad, "So what do you think?" His dad tells him, "I think it's ready." We then see an older Bruce finally go visit Joe Chill in prison and pick up the intercom phone saying, "Well, you had something you wanted to say." And with that, the issue ends. Issue 5 starts off in the past right after the attack at the zoo in which Bruce's father gave his life. We see Bruce with his mother Martha at the doctor, specifically Leslie Tompkins, where she's giving him a rabies shot as bats were let loose in the attack at the zoo. When she's all done giving Bruce his shots, Dr. Tompkins says, "If you start growing fangs or pointy ears, mister, you call me right away. Got it?" He grins and says, "Okay, Dr. Tompkins," as she says, "Otherwise, that should be the end of you and bats." Which obviously it is not. It is quite literally just the beginning. And on the next page, we see Bruce and his mother at his father's funeral. After this, we're brought back to the present where we see Batman speeding down Gotham City on his motorcycle. As captions say, he revs the engine as he rounds 27th, revs it louder on 39th, taunting them to try him, referring to the party animals, as captions continue to say, but they all just watch and let him pass. Look at him. He's daring them to blow up the deal. Some part of him wants them to, I'm sure. The bike has a tracker watching that dot. I half expect him to do it himself, drive right past the meeting spot, but he doesn't. Instead, he stops right where he's supposed to and goes into the building. As we see, these captions are from Alfred, who's watching and tracking Batman. Alfred says, "My handler calls just then. They have what they need. He says I should leave now. I tell him I'm leaving, but stay right where I am." Elsewhere, we see Martha holding some Gordon for Mayor signs asking Jim if he's ready. He says, "Look, Mar, I just want to say I'm sorry that..." She interrupts saying, "No, we haven't lost yet." He responds, "You saw the news. He has Harvey. I just didn't see that one coming." Stings. She says, "You remember how we met?" He tells her, "You mean when I arrested you? You were carrying a sign then too." She tells him, "The sign you broke?" He tells her, "It was an accident. It wouldn't fit into the trunk." With her saying, "And the whole way to the station, I laid into you, but when we got to Central, instead of booking me, you let me go, even gave me money for a new sign." She continues to say, "My point is, yes, most times Gotham's people surprise you in awful ways, but sometimes, once in a blue moon, they surprise you in good ones too. Now get your old ass up." Gordon replies, "So you know when I said I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about the election. I was talking about the zoo, the memorial light. I'm sorry they're not lighting it this year because of all this crap. When you see Bruce, tell him I said so. Please, because that's what really stinks." We're then brought back to the day of Thomas Wayne's funeral where Jim talks to Bruce saying, "Look, I'm not much good at this, but I just wanted to say, I've seen a lot of brave actions in my life, but I haven't known many brave people. Your dad, he was one. He sort of shone with it. I see that when I look at you too. I'll let you go now, but also I wanted you to know they're going to tear down the zoo, okay?" Bruce asks, "What are they going to put there?" Jim tells him, "I don't know, something practical, I'm sure, but you won't have to look at it ever again. It'll be gone for good, okay?" On the the next page, we get more captions from Alfred saying, here we go, a few more moments, and this fever dream will be over. And Batman will be something lasting, applicable. As remember, in issue 3, Batman took the Black Mask's deal, taking a large sum of money in order for Batman to kind of turn the other cheek while Black Mask and the party animals finish up what they're doing in Gotham. Essentially, the Black Mask was like, look, you can't really stop this, so take a large chunk of money. Look the other way. Let me finish my job, and then when I leave, you'll have the resources to continue your war on crime, and you'll be looked at as a hero. Anyway, we see Batman on the rooftop with captions saying, as he's looking at Batman through binoculars, for a moment his back tenses, almost imperceptible. But I catch it as he sees Batman looking up. As Alfred continues to look with his binoculars, he sees snipers on all the rooftops around. He says, you feel that? They're all jealous of you because you did it. You won. I'll tell you a secret. I'm bloody jealous of you too, because I learned too late. But you, cheers, Mr. Wayne. Then Black Mask lands his helicopter on the rooftop where he finds Batman waiting, and he says, hello there, let's make you rich. On the next page, Black Mask continues to say, it's all set, buddy, 200 million. The code to the account was sent this morning. Batman replies, I know, I already used it on something. Black Mask tells them, amazing, look at you. On what? Cars, planes, bat computers? How much did you use? I have to know. Batman replies, all of it, as we see panels of the 200 million in the shape of a bat on top of a light. All while we get flashbacks from the funeral when Bruce was talking to Jim. As Jim leaves, he says, Mr. Gordon, stop. I don't want them to knock down the zoo or turn it into something practical. I want something there that makes everyone look. Like you said, something that shines. As Batman in the present hits the switch and asks Black Mask, want to see how I spent it? And on the next page, we see he spent it to make a gigantic bat signal. That's right, he used the 200 million to make the silhouette of a bat for his bat signal. Black Mask says that is one ugly bat. As the news starts reporting saying, reports of Gotham City Zoo memorial light, witnesses claim a massive bat made of money. So Bruce used the money to shine the bat signal from the zoo where his father died as a memorial. Because remember, as Jim said earlier in this issue, and what we learned in previous issues, they weren't gonna have the memorial at the zoo this year because of everything going on in Gotham, but Bruce used his 200 million to make sure that light shined where his father died. And when this all sets in with the Black Mask, he screams, party animals, the deal is off. Batman turns and says, see Ronin, I don't need cars or planes or computers. I don't need anything you have. All I need is Batman, as he uses his tendril-like cape to stab, cut, and whip several of the party animals. In fact, remember that massive party animal that got his hand chopped off by Batman's bat symbol battle axe in the first issue? Yeah, he comes back for revenge with a giant cleaver jumping on Batman's back, putting said cleaver to his neck, saying, payback time. But Batman just responds by ejecting the spikes from his back and shoulders, impaling the thug like a pincushion. The thug starts screaming, I'm stuck, get me off him, please sir, which is pretty damn gruesome as Batman just retracts the spikes from his shoulders and back while telling Black Mask and the party animals all the crime the party animals committed, all the arson, robbery, the murders. It was manufactured by you, so you and your boss could profit. You don't care how many people die. As he uses the cape like a whip to go through one of the party animals' neck, and then throw him over his body in front of Black Mask. Black Mask responds, nope. Fortunately though, you do. Fire. As Black Mask orders his snipers on the rooftops to shoot his men on the ground. Batman is all like, what are you doing? Everyone get down, as he uses his cape to try to save Black Mask's own men. Black Mask then says, now while you're playing Angel, net him, as he captures Batman in a net. Black Mask says, man, you had it too, all right there, that ticket to the big party. All you had to do was reach out and grab it, as he grabs Black Mask's pant leg through the net, pulling him towards him, but Black Mask is pretty skilled as well, and Batman is immobilized for the most part, so he grabs Batman's arm and breaks it. As he says, now, what do you have? Batman responds, I have just what I wanted. Everything you set up here, everything you confess to, it's already at every news station in Gotham. As he reveals he had a camera on his cowl the whole time. Black Mask then gets down to Batman's level and says, my God, you actually think you achieved something here, don't you? Black Mask's henchwoman then pulls one of Batman's ears out of his cowl, revealing the knife he has hidden in there, and starts stabbing Batman with it. Black Mask tells Batman he believes that burning the cash exposing the truth is going to inspire them. He thinks he's the hero, but he says, I hate to tell you, pal, you're not even the main character, right, kiddo? As we see another one of his henchmen use a flamethrower on Batman. Luckily, his bat suit seems to be mostly fire resistant, but as he's trapped there burning, another henchman takes Batman's retractable bow staff that connects to his bat symbol to make a battle axe, at which point the henchman connects it to his bat symbol, forming the battle axe, and then swings it at Batman, knocking him off the building, sending him on a free fall to the street. street below. However, Batman's able to make a makeshift parachute with his cape before landing on top of a car. But at this point, the GCPD is all over his butt as they start lighting him up, with Barbara Gordon arriving on the scene, hitting Batman with her squad car, at which point she gets out of her car saying, "Freeze. I said freeze, damn it, I will shoot." Batman, whose cowl has fallen off, is trying to hide his face and says, "Then do it. Go on," as he flees into the sewer, and Barbara's radio asks, "Any sign of him, Gordon?" She says, "No, none," as she watches Batman get away and stares at his cowl left on the street near the sewer. Then on the next page, we see Black Mask talking live on the news saying, "Hello, Gotham. My name is Roman. Here's a little bit about me. I grew up on a pig farm. Humble beginnings." He goes on to talk about his upbringing and how he knows what it feels like to come from nothing before finally saying, "Which brings me to now, this moment, because come on, we all feel it. The big guys, they killed the world long ago, and yet they keep us all slaving away with the promise it's all still alive. I mean, admit it, you can barely pay your bills while their money makes more money. You drag recycling to the curb while they ride in private jets that tear the sky apart. You struggle to hold this system together that does nothing for you. Do the right thing so they could do the wrong one. Why? I'll ask again. Why? We're then brought back to Bruce in one of his bat caves as he's sewing himself up and attached to IVs. Alfred then comes walking in saying, "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Bruce responds, "Yes, I tagged him, the tracker from the bike. I slipped it onto Black Mask when I grabbed him. Help me close some of these wounds." Alfred says, "Go to hell." Bruce tells him, "Don't you get it?" "If I can." Alfred interrupts saying, "Oh, I get it. I was a field medic. I know about 100 ways to patch you up, but I'll never help you again. Goodbye, kid. And just know what's coming next is on your head." As Alfred walks out and Bruce is there alone contemplating. We then continue to hear Black Mask talking over the news while Martha and Jim find mysterious boxes all over the city. Black Mask continues to say, "Because all those ideals, those dreams you're toiling for, they're dead. Progress is dead. History is dead. Truth is dead. So how about we all just admit it's dead and relax so the pin can hit the sweet little spot. Let's all live in that one split second of ecstasy. Feast on the giant scraps." And because Batman turned down his invite, I'm offering invitations to all of you. Hundreds of millions of dollars, all up for grabs. Welcome to the party, Gotham, as we and Jim and Martha see what's inside those boxes. It's party animal masks and rifles as Jim and Martha look at people grabbing the stuff, putting it on like, oh crap. Yeah, the Black Mask is essentially equipping all of Gotham with the weapons they need to cause anarchy and take what they deserve, so to speak. But with that, the issue ends. And now we're on to the finale of his origin arc, including the full reveal of Absolute Joker.
Absolute Batman issue 6 starts off with a news reporter saying someone identified as Roman Sionis is dropping crates filled with masks and firearms across Gotham City in an effort to encourage people to join his party animal's reign of violence. Everyone watching is urged to stay inside and lock your doors. We then hear Waylon watching this on the news at his gym when he hears a noise, and he says, "Oh, you picked the wrong gym, Chief. I am Waylon Croc Jones, former AFC champ, and I've been hungry for a good fight." But the shadowy figure turns out to be a bruised and battered Batman as he says to him, "It's me, Way." And when Waylon realizes it's Bruce, he says, "What happened to you? Did the party animals?" But he stops short when he feels the spikes on Bruce's back and he asks, "What the? Why?" And Bruce looks up at him and says, "Because I'm Batman and I need your help." The issue then takes us to the past as we see Bruce having a sleepover with his friends, including Harvey, Edward, Oz, Waylon, and Selina. But as Bruce's mom tells them, "Lights out, everyone," a man with a gun enters the house and shoots Martha as she tries to shield the children. But on the next page, we see it was just Bruce having a nightmare as he wakes up screaming, "No." He then goes downstairs and tries to tell his mom that he had another nightmare, and she quickly comforts him, which of course builds on Bruce's past trauma and the reasons why he turned to his life as Batman. Anyway, on the next page, we are brought back to the streets of Gotham in the exact moment where issue 5 left off, with Jim Gordon and Martha Wayne watching a bunch of civilians picking up weapons and masks dropped off by the Black Mask. We then see Martha pick up one of the masks and say, "What's with these?" before putting one on and realizing exactly what the masks are for. She quickly realizes that each of the masks are electronic target and reward identifiers, which tells the wearer what their cash reward will be for committing robbery, arson, assault, and murder. It even identifies targets for hits. Martha then says, "My God, Jim, the money he's offering." But while she's still got the mask on, one of the party animals spots them and approaches with a gun saying, "Hey you, stop blocking that crate." Jim then points his gun at him saying, "You stay where you are." But the Gotham citizen, now turned party animal, says, "No, All the masks in the other crate are taken. Jim then turns to Martha and says, "You need to get out of here now." So she looks at him with the mask on and sees that there's a bounty on his head for $1 million. At which point Martha takes off the masks and tells Jim, "You're a target and I'm your deputy mayor. So no, I'm not going anywhere. We need to stop this." From here we're taken to the subway as we see Julia Pennyworth talking to someone on the phone who asks, "How close? Like exactly?" She responds, "Just a few stops." The person on the phone then says, "A few as in 3, 4, what?" And when she goes to respond again, she gets an emergency alert on her phone saying, "Stay-at-home order in effect for Gotham City, effective immediately until further notice." After which, she looks up and sees civilians with guns and masks boarding the train. The person on the phone then quickly asks Julia, "What's happening?" She says, "I'm hanging up and calling the police," but it was too late as we see her snatched by one of the masked party animals in the last panel on the page. So these first few pages do a great job of building the tension as everything Black Mask has been working on begins to unfold and Gotham descends into chaos. We turn the page to find Ozzy piloting a plane with Bruce, who he just found out is Batman, and he's not taking it so good. He screams at Bruce saying, "You're Batman and you didn't think maybe this was something to mention?" Bruce, who's in full Batman mode, says, "I was trying to protect you, Ozzy, all of you." But Oz responds, "Well, it's out of the bag now. Waylon wants to punch you, Harvey wants to arrest you, Eddie says he guessed it weeks ago, the jackass. Who knows what Selena will..." Actually, she'll probably think it's hot. But me, personally, I find it absolutely... But Bruce interrupts his tirade saying, "There, Eddie's Riddler said Black Mask's entire network was too big to bring down, but that local servers could be crashed." And as a refresher, Eddie's Riddler is referring to the AI robot that he built a few issues ago. Bruce then goes on to say, "There has to be one on that boat. If I can blow it," but Ozzy interrupts saying, "Blow it? Bruce, you do this. You're on your own. I barely have enough fuel to make it back to Gotham. I can't stick around to save you." But Bruce tells him, "I'm not asking you to, or anyone else," as he jumps out of the plane and we see him gliding down to the boat. And I gotta say, the splash page here is an incredible homage to The Dark Knight Returns and really should be made into a cover. Anyway, we then see Batman land on the boat, crashing down onto one of Black Mask's henchmen. Then after beating the crap out of this dude, Batman sees a crate full of life jackets. So he pulls several out, straps them around the henchman he just stomped through the boat floor, and throws him into the ocean. Meanwhile, this little weird-looking henchman comes running out with a knife trying to stab Batman, saying, "Kill you." But an unamused Batman just picks him up by his head, ties a life jacket around him, and full-on punts him into the ocean. Then in the distance, we see a woman in a bikini wearing a mask coming out looking for the kid, saying, "Are you out there?" But she instead sees a very ticked-off Batman, at which point she says, "Oh," and then jumps into the ocean herself, with Batman just throwing her a life jacket. From here we are taken back to the past after Bruce had his nightmare, and we see him and his mom looking at a photo album. She tells him, "This one is from right before you were born, and here's you learning to walk. And this one, man, I love this one." At which point we see that they're looking at a picture of Bruce and all of his friends from that day at the zoo. Bruce tells her, "Mom, you might not know this, but that picture, Dad took it the morning of the class trip. He snapped it at the zoo just before the shooting started." And he's referring to the moment where Thomas Wayne was gunned down right in front of Bruce. Which of course is just all kinds of heartbreaking. But on the next page we return to the present with Jim and Martha Wayne as they try to hold off all the civilians who want the crate full of guns and masks next to Jim and Martha. Jim says, "Back away for the sake of the whole city." But one of the desperate citizens trying to get to the crate says, "Oh, that's rich. All this happened on your watch, Gordon. We're just trying to get something for ourselves before it all goes to hell." Martha then chimes in and says, "You all saw Batman's feed. All Black Mask wants is Gotham in chaos. He's using us. Maybe so his cronies can profit or get more control. Who knows? But all this is a game to him, and the only way we win is by not playing." But one of the men in the crowd just say, "Yeah, well, maybe that's all that's left these days. Again, most of us never get to play unless we get lucky, and you should have been quicker, folks." Because as the men begin to look through the masks, they see that the death of Martha and Gordon are worth $1 million apiece. And I gotta tell you, I really wish I could say that something like this wasn't possible, but yeah. History. Anyway, from here we are taken to the interior of a plane where we see that Alfred was able to save his daughter Julia and now has her on a private jet. But she tells him, "Do not take off. I have a life, Dad. I have people I care about. I know it's a foreign concept to you, but I need to be with them right now while they're hurting." To which he responds, "I'll bring you back to Gotham in a few weeks when it's safe, Julia. I've seen the aftermath in places where Black Mask does this kind of thing. Right now, I can't risk you being here." But she looks at him and responds, "You know, when I was a little girl, I had had a bag packed under my bed, a little blue suitcase I took from mom's closet. I had my favorite clothes in it, toys, books. I'd wait for you to get home from your adventures, hoping you'd take me with you next time. It was all I wanted. Now, there's no place I want to be less than on a plane with you. And I promise you this, if we take off, I don't have a father anymore. At this point, the captain chimes in saying, "Sir, we have clearance. What do you say?" Alfred pauses and tells him, "I say wheels up, Captain. Get us out of this city once and for all." Essentially sacrificing his relationship with his daughter so that he knows she'll be safe. And I gotta tell you, as a father, I don't think I'd do anything different. Just hope we can work it out later. Meanwhile, back on the boat, we see Batman has found Black Mask and they start fighting with Batman kicking Black Mask into a wall. Black Mask tells Batman, "You still don't get it, do you? You think you can stop them? You think you can stop anything that's coming? Let me tell you a little." But Batman is not interested in hearing a single word that Black Mask has to say and literally spears him right through a wall and onto a bowling alley on the yacht. Batman then picks up a bowling ball and says, "Go on, keep talking," as he starts repeatedly smashing Black Mask in the face with bowling balls. That is until they fall through the floor to a lower level where Batman continues to destroy Black Mask, literally beating him senseless while saying, "Tell me again how I don't matter. I love it. So please, Roman, go on. I said go on." Now, Batman's emotions clearly get the better of him, and it allows Roman to get a rope around Batman's neck, and he starts to choke him with it. And as Bruce is being choked out, we get flashback panels of Bruce sitting with his mom looking at the photo album, where she tells Bruce, "I know this picture is from that day. That's part of why I love it." But Bruce responds, "I don't understand." She then tells him, "Well, when things are rough, believing you can make a difference, being hopeful, it's not easy. But that's what I see when I look at these pictures. Because no matter how hard things got, and they were rough sometimes, your dad stayed hopeful. But he was always at his most hopeful about you." Then with panels of the flashback and the fight being interwoven, we see Black Mask say to Batman, "You know I lied about the pigs. My favorite thing wasn't when they loved it. The best was when they fought, when they struggled right up to the end, when they never believed the bolt would come, when they thought they could win. The scream they made, the shriek, best sound in the world." But what Roman didn't realize is that as he was saying this, Batman's bat ears started rotating forward, and then he screams, "Did it sound anything like this?" And on the next page, we see that Batman rotated them forward so he could headbutt Black Mask right in the eyes with them. This is one of the most brutal things we've seen from Absolute Batman so far. In fact, this is one of the most brutal things we've seen from Batman in a combat situation, period, in a very long time. It's raw savagery, and I gotta admit, I really like it. Anyway, on the next panel, we see Batman is dragging Black Mask by a life jacket he's wrapped around his neck, with Black Mask saying, "You lunatic, you will lose everything you love, I promise you. You have no idea what you've started." But Batman is completely unfazed and just chucks him in the ocean without a care. But in the middle of this, we also see that the homicidal rioters are also getting ready to kill Jim and Martha for the $1 million bounties on their heads. But before they get the chance, Batman walks into the server room on the boat with a belt full of grenades, pulling the pins and destroying the servers. From here, we're returned to the past one last time as Martha tells Bruce, "I will die one day, Bruce, and you will too. But not for a long time. It's okay though. I can take this one out if you want." But Bruce looks at the picture and says, "No, leave it." From here, we return to the present where we see the bounties on Martha and Jim's head go to 0, saying, "Murder target unknown, system failure." So Batman's plan to destroy the servers and stop the chaos in Gotham worked. However, the explosion caused the boat to sink to the bottom of the ocean. And as it does, we see captions from the past with his mom saying, "Bruce, before you go to sleep, I want you to know I'm proud of you. What you went through, you'd have every right to say hell with it all, live angry and afraid. But that's not who you are. The way you go back out there with your friends, what you said to Jim at the funeral. Because the other thing you can do when bad things happen is use the pain to be even more determined, more hopeful. You wear the pain like a cape, and you work every day to stop those bad things from ever happening again. That's how you win against the nightmares, how you win against all of it, always." And as we read those words from Martha, we see Alfred arrive in Batman's Batmobile dump truck to save Batman in the water. We actually got a demonstration a few issues back on how this monster Batmobile operates in the water, and it's a pretty freaking great idea. Alfred then finds and rescues Batman from the water, and after pulling him inside the Batmobile, he tells him, "Kid, if I'm sticking around, so are you. Let's get you patched up." And that, my friends, finally gives us the full Batman-Alfred team-up in this Absolute universe, and the setup to get to this point has been so good. But that is not where this issue ends, because in the epilogue, the return of this world's Joker finally arrives. We've only seen the Joker one other time, and it was on the very last page of the first issue of Absolute Batman. And in those panels, he's described as an eccentric billionaire who never laughs. Anyway, back in the epilogue of issue 6, we see a man walk up to Joker and say, "Sir, Sionis is reporting. It seems there's been a small snag in Gotham City." Absolute Joker then tells him, "I'm aware, it's time, get Bane." And this is where things take an even creepier turn, because we then see some sort of fetus bursting out of his chest like it's aliens, with veins and skin normal. It's disgusting. I have no idea what's going on here or where this is going, but Scott Snyder, I trust you. But the bigger picture here is that it seems like everyone has been working for the Joker this entire time, including the Black Mask. And with Absolute Joker telling his assistant to get Bane, things are going to get very interesting as we move into issue 7 and the next story arc. But that wraps things up for today, so let us know down in the comments what you thought about this first story arc for Absolute Batman and where you think things are going with Absolute Joker. Other than that, we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.